What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hating Your Coworkers. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin, and about a month ago, I made a video on the Philadelphia 76ers and the drama surrounding them with James Harden's trade request, Joel Embiid's obscure comments about winning a championship. But beyond that, it was relatively minor tomfoolery. And then James Harden went to China. While abroad, Harden was giving a speech and minced no words on his disdain for Daryl Morey. This wasn't a veiled shot either. Harden put his whole dick on the table saying, quote, Daryl Morey is a liar and I will never be part of an organization that he's a part of. He said that twice, by the way. This wasn't written in an article and posted on some fan blog. This didn't come from Ballsack Sports. This wasn't a folklorish retelling of a bearded cryptid wandering the streets of Philadelphia. No, we have actual video evidence of this. Harden is seen very publicly addressing a crowd, and he made it known to everyone that he fucking despises Daryl Morey. The person who posted this was Shams Charania, and this clip has since garnered more than 40 million views on the app that's formerly known as Twitter. The relationship between Harden and Morey has become irreparable, and while Harden didn't use that word specifically, he did say on a radio interview that he feels the relationship between him and Morey is beyond repair. I think the best part about this entire situation outside of it happening to the Philadelphia 76ers is that it manifested over something very commonplace, a trade request. Before we go any deeper, I think we need to dive in to the James Harden lore a little bit. As you all know, he only recently found himself in Philadelphia by way of that blockbuster trade between them and the Brooklyn Nets in February of 2022 that saw him and Ben Simmons swap places. And of course, before arriving in Brooklyn, he had been a member of the Houston Rockets for 9 seasons. I believe 8 or 9 seasons. Unfortunately, the timeline isn't that straightforward. In 2020, Harden went to the Houston Rockets front office and expressed his desire to want to go to a team where he could compete for a championship, which is a very normal thing for a guy in Harden's position to want to do. He was around 30 years old at the time and really just didn't want to spend his last good years playing for a team that was barely going to qualify for the postseason. It was very clearly the right thing to do, and the Rockets finished the 2020-2021 season with a 17-55 record. James Harden had no business being on that team. During trade negotiations, reporters explained to NBA fans how there are really only 2 destinations for James Harden. You had Brooklyn and Philadelphia. The Nets already had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. The Nets already had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and on paper provided Harden with the best opportunity to win a championship. The 76ers, however, had Daryl Morey. Houston opted to send Harden to Brooklyn largely because the Nets had the best combination of young players and draft picks. Of course, this was the same trade that saw the Rockets miss out on both Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert, but we're not gonna touch on that because they did get like 5 or 6 picks, I believe. Harden arrives in Brooklyn and is playing some of the best basketball of his career. He's averaging damn near 25 points and 11 assists. The Nets are rolling through the Eastern Conference, and they come within a scrotum hair of knocking Milwaukee off in the second round of the postseason. I still firmly hold the belief that if Brooklyn had beaten Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference semifinals, they would have won the NBA title that year. I don't think anybody is ever going to be able to talk me out of that. I mean, you just think about the level that Kevin Durant was playing on, and even the contributions from James Harden, who was dealing with that hamstring injury, and also Kyrie Irving would have probably been back at some point. Like, if I don't think the Suns would have beaten Brooklyn that year. I don't think so, and I don't think anyone is ever going to be able to talk me out of it. Sadly, what the fuck was that? Sadly, all Nets fans know all too well how that situation pans out. Harden effectively grows tired of the franchise. I think he became disillusioned with everything that transpired between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And for that, I kind of can't blame him because it was the Brooklyn Nets were a fucking mess at that point. And I will say so wholeheartedly. But what struck me very odd about that entire situation was that the reports later came out and said that No, actually, Harden had no interest in playing in Brooklyn. He effectively hit us with the
Nuh-uh. I never said that. I don't want to go there.
and he this entire time he only had his eyes set on Philadelphia. Now, I don't have telepathic powers. I'm not an X-Man. I can't verify 100% whether or not this was accurate and if he actually said this, but GMs have been known to spite their players when they're asking for a trade. However, I don't think that the 17 and 55 Houston Rockets, that dog shit team that season, was really spiting Harden by sending him to maybe not the situation that he wanted to go to, but objectively the better situation. Brooklyn at that point was a better team than the Philadelphia 76ers was. And they were also in the same division. So it was just a really odd way to spite him. If you really wanted to spite your star player, you would have traded him to Orlando or like Charlotte or a franchise where he really can't contribute. He won't be contributing to anything, but also that would be really fucked up on the Rockets' part because he had given that team 9 years. He had taken them about as far as he could have, and he only asked out when the situation was at its bleakest, and there was really no way for him to reach his goals with that team. But anyway, I I digress. Now, I understand there are three sides to every story, but before we get into it, full disclosure, I think that both of these guys, James Harden and Daryl Morey, are probably equal parts at fault for their relationship deteriorating. The tale allegedly begins like this. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but Harden and Morey come to this agreement where Harden will opt into his contract for this upcoming season, which is worth $35.6 million. Pardon me. And in turn, Morey and the Sixers would field trade offers and eventually trade him to another contending team. Although Harden is still a fantastic player, there were no bites on this trade offer, and it's because of two reasons. The asking price was too much. Philly wanted a star player of equal caliber plus a whole bunch of draft capital, and also the Sixers have no leverage in this situation. Harden is an aging, disgruntled star. You're not going to get an adequate compensation for him. Really, the only trade that seemingly materialized, and I say materialized loosely, was with the LA Clippers, but that team didn't even want to give up Terrence Mann. And Terrence Mann, along with draft picks, is nowhere near a same caliber player. There was really no way that Harden was going to get traded this year, I feel like. Although I wouldn't say that I feel bad for James Harden, I do sympathize with him, and I understand why he is so publicly upset with Daryl Morey. He's missed out on hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contract extensions as his GMs have tried to build championship level teams around him. If there was some sort of agreement between him and Morey where he takes a pay cut and then there's a long-term extension later on down the line, only for Morey to renege on that, I understand why that stings. It's not the money that Harden is leaving on the table that I sympathize with him over. It's the fact that he and a close friend had come to an agreement, like a gentleman's agreement, only for that close friend to stab him in the back. That is a very human thing to be upset over, and I don't fault Harden that much over it. I actually don't fault him on it at all. Like, again, that is a very human thing to feel betrayal and to be angry at someone who has betrayed you, especially when you have formed such a close bond with them. And I understand that the NBA is a business, but when you've spent a lot of years with someone as Harden and Morey have done, you expect a different kind of decorum. You expect honesty, you expect transparency, and to be again betrayed in this situation, if you're James Harden, like, that fucking sucks. And again, it's very normal to feel that way, and I don't fault his emotions at all in that regard. The money I don't give so much about. It's more of the friendship that he and Morey seemingly had. Expectedly, this fiasco impacts Philly quite sizably. There's the chance that Harden shows up to camp looking like he ate Joel Embiid, if he even chooses to report at all, which brings me to a really interesting point that I didn't know existed until I started looking deeper into this story. the league has already fined Harden 100 grand because he was found in breach of like the public trade demands clause of the CBA. The players union has filed a grievance against that, so we'll see what goes on. But it's now possible that Harden is found in violation of yet another clause. ESPN's Zach Lowe noted how Harden could be held in breach of contract or found in breach of contract. I don't know what the legal word for that is if he chooses to report to camp. This was a similar situation that cropped up with Ben Simmons, but the main difference is that Harden is in the final year of his contract. And I guess when a player is in the final year of his contract, there is a different set of rules that they have to play by. The consequence of Harden not showing up to Philly is that the Sixers would have the right to refuse him signing with any other NBA team. Not only that, they would have the right to refuse to allow him to sign with any other professional franchise. This fool couldn't even go to Bulgaria to play basketball without Philadelphia signing off on it. And they would 100% do that. There is no doubt in my mind that if push came to shove, the Sixers would not allow Harden to go elsewhere because NBA ownership groups and people in the front offices, they are spiteful and they are petty. Regardless of whether or not Harden plays this year, I think this campaign is kind of a wash for the Sixers already. They're not going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference because, after all, they still have Joel Embiid. They have the reigning MVP, and they have a decent team around him. But they are not a championship-level contending team with an upset James Harden. If they want to come out on top of the East, they need Harden to be locked in. And I don't think that him being frustrated is going to do anything for them because he's either going to not play and they're down an all-star caliber player, or he's going to play and not play up to the standards that we're used to. Either way, I just don't see this. I just don't see this getting better for the Sixers until they trade James Harden. But even if they do trade James Harden, there's no way that they are getting an all-star caliber player back for him. It's only gotten worse from when he originally requested the trade. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything that I'm associated with is down in the description box below. You have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel as well. Leave a like on this video. If you enjoyed it, comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. And with that, I'll catch y'all in the next one.